Hey there, courageous leader. Looking for a place to connect, share, and collaborate with other ambitious, impact-driven powerhouses? Well, look no further. Join me and dozens of other bold, action-oriented women in leadership in the Lead Hers Lounge. The Lead Hers Lounge is a no-cost monthly meetup for listeners of the show and my broader She Leads community so that we can come together and uncover opportunities to collaborate with each other and magnify our impact. We meet monthly on the fourth Wednesday of every month. Details to save your spot for the next no-cost meetup is in the show notes below, or you can head over to SabineGideon.com/lounge to register. Again, that's SabineGideon.com/lounge to register and save your spot. I'll see you in the lounge. Thank you for joining me on another episode of She Leads Now podcast, where we help career and entrepreneurial women gain the tools to develop a success mindset, create winning strategies, build collaborative relationships, and take bold action towards creating impact and fulfillment in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and I'm on a mission to awaken and activate women and emerging leaders so they can tap into their innate leadership ability, elevate their influence, and create the impact they were destined to make. If you're ready to uplevel your confidence, courage, and influence, you've come to the right place. Join me weekly for insights, strategies, and resources to help you grow, develop, and embody the leader you were meant to be, so that you can make the impact you know you are called to make and establish the legacy you've always dreamed. The world eagerly awaits the emergence of your brilliance, impact, and influence. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the She Leads Now podcast. I am your host, Sabine Gideon, and today my guest, Lisa Dahl, that is going to share her journey of entrepreneurship and certainly how she became to be the leader that she is today. So a little background about Lisa. Lisa is a certified intuitive eating and body image health coach. At Lisa Dahl Wellness, she offers her premier program, Body Peace and Food Freedom. Through intuitive eating, she helps women undiet their lives. I love that. Make peace with their food and body. Lisa teaches women to listen, trust, and respect their bodies to be happy, healthy, and confident at any size. My goodness, what amazing work to be doing. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I just read your bio. I would love to hear from you. And as I'm sure the audience would too, share a little bit about your journey, how you came into the space of being a wellness coach and focused on intuitive eating.
So it's a great question, because if somebody had asked me 5 years ago if I would help women undiet their lives, I would have said, not a chance. I had been a professional dieter since I was 12 years old. I became uncomfortable in my body when I was in elementary school. I probably diet better than most people did. And one of the reasons for that is because I was always complimented on how much willpower I had and how I could give up everything. And meanwhile, I'm living in restriction and deprivation, thinking that is normal. And when I decided to shift careers from catering 5 years ago, I thought I was going to be the health and wellness coach to help women lose weight. I already had the personal experience, and army with some, education and professional background, I was going to be that go-to person to help you lose weight. And then I discovered once I got my health and wellness coaching certification and my desire to be the best coach that I could be and my desire to learn, I came across a book called Health at Every Size. And it opened my eyes to a whole new world. And I discovered I had my own disordered eating challenges. And through that book, I discovered the practice of intuitive eating. And while I was reading and learning, I started to be able to heal my own challenges. And I proceeded with getting certified in the practice of intuitive eating. And from that point on, I knew ethically and morally, I could not help women to lose weight. It shifted my life personally and professionally and has really given me body peace and food freedom. And that's where my program has come from, is from my past and my experiences.
Wow, that is such a powerful testimony. And when we talked before, I thought it was ironic that you are a chef and around food all of the time, and yet, had these internal struggles that you were fighting through. And so I love the fact that, you've leveraged your experience, though I'm pretty sure it took a lot of courage and it's taken a lot of work to help you shift your mindset around that to now be helping women do the same. Now, from a career perspective, how did you even get to the place where you were a chef? Like what drew out that passion for you to follow that path?
So I started out, I have a degree in hotel restaurant management. So I have always had a love of food. And I remember I was in college and I came home and my grandmother had such a huge love of baking and holidays, and just the smell of food always just brought me so much joy, even with the rules and the regulations and the restrictions that I lived with. I still have always loved food. My first job was a bakery girl in a local bakery. But when I had come home from college, and my grandmother was probably in her 80s, and she has this huge, large Le Creuset pot. And it's this big flame orange. If anybody knows what the brand is, it's still very well known today. And it was tucked underneath one of her cabinets. And she says, Lisa, if you can get this pot out, it's all yours, because they weigh a ton. And I was, 19 or 20, I was like, sure, I'll just bend out and get it. And it's just been one of those, it's just been part of my journey. And when I still use that pot today, I think of her. And I've always had a love of cooking, a love of entertaining. And I did it for friends and family for many, many years. And when I moved a lot with my ex-husband, and we finally had bought a home that had 2 kitchens in it, and I was able to legally work from home and have my children at home, because it was really important for me to be, I loved being the stay-at-home mom. I was so grateful that I had the privilege to be the stay-at-home mom. So I was able to combine being home and creating my own business. And I had the luxury, the privilege of having it start out as a hobby that turned into a business. And then the house of cards fell apart in that I asked for a divorce. And when I asked for a divorce, I lost my second kitchen, the ability to work legally out of my house. So I lost my house, I lost my home, I lost my insurance, all of those things that go along with divorce. And I needed to go work for another company. I merged my business into another company to create some stability. And I did that for several years, knowing I wouldn't love it, because I lost all my autonomy and all the things that I loved about having my own business, being the creative part and cooking and meeting my clients' needs, not here's a standard menu, this is what you get to choose from. And so in between all of that, my personal life changed. And when my partner and I decided to live together, he gave me the most amazing gift, which was time. And I quit my job on a Friday and I went back to school on a Monday and worked towards my personal training certification, then onto my health and wellness certification, and then specializing in intuitive eating and body positivity, and just continuing to learn on that path from there.
So it sounds like you've had the entrepreneurial bug most of your career. This smaller stint that you did, what we would call traditional or corporate, if you will, was very short-lived. Now, in terms of the individuals that you support in your business and in your organization, share with me a little bit more about who they are and when they come to you, why they come to you, and how you're able to support them.
I work with women. And, you start out as that general health and wellness coach, willing to work with anybody, do anything. I work with women who are typically late 30s, early 40s on up. And they are women who have dieted, have a really challenging relationship with food and their body. They don't participate in all the things that they want to participate, and try to stay hidden and small because they're feeling big and large in their bodies. They are, and I want to say, I'm using the word desperate And they're just so desperate for relief on the pain that they are experiencing in their everyday life. They are consumed with food thoughts. They're consumed with, I can do this, I can't do this, I can eat this, I can't eat that. It's a good food, it's a bad food. Are my clothes going to fit? The whole dialogue and all the baggage that they carry, often from childhood. And it is women who are really saying, okay, I hear this thing. It sounds like there's something different. I'm really ready to give it a try because what I have done hasn't worked. I keep going round and round and round. I don't even know how many diets I've been on. And the days and the cycles can last from 24 hours to I'm dieting, to I'm not dieting, to a 6-month cycle, to a year cycle. The statistics show that 95% of people who lose weight will regain their weight within 3 to 5 years, and most often in that 5th year. Those before pictures end up becoming the after and the before again. And I help women learn how to listen, trust, and respect their here and now bodies, how to engage in life, being present, and understanding that their value does not come from that number on the scale. Get them out of their heads and into their hearts so that they can share who they are.
Wow. I'm going to tell you right now, I feel very seen. Very, very seen. And we talked about this when we connected initially, in terms of having those same beliefs as a young girl and growing into an adult with them. Now, I know specifically, as you mentioned, you work with women, but is there a type of woman?
Body image has no avatar. It is women who are in small bodies still have challenges with body image. That's why we have anorexia. That's why we have bulimia. There is no stereotype of, yes, there are predominantly people who are perfectionists that tend to fall into eating disorders more so. And it's an open door. Once you go on that first diet, it is the gateway to the disordered eating and eating disorders. And, a lot of the women I work with have children and don't want to pass on their internal wars to their children because our children are listening. When you say, I shouldn't eat that, or how do I look, or I don't look good, your children are looking at a reflection of themselves and thinking, well, if you're unhappy with your body, if you can't eat that, what does that say about me? Because I'm a product of you. So it's, people come to me from all different walks of what makes them ready. And, the pandemic has really amped it all up because we spend so much time alone. And often we think about, well, the last time I saw that person, well, it could now be almost 2 years since the last time you saw that person. And now you're thinking, well, I look different. We all look different. Even if nothing had changed, because we all age, we all look different. And how do we learn to accept that we are going to look different? Our bodies are going to change. Our bodies are going to ebb and flow. And when we focus on whole body health, not just on our nutrition, because stress is one of the biggest impacts of ill health, not the number on the scale. Yeah. So we shift the conversation. My new group just started, and we spend a lot of time talking about health and breaking down, where did you get this information from? Just because you've heard it over and over again, it doesn't mean that it's true. And it's a challenge. We're talking about shifting your mindset, shifting your perspective. And we spend a lot of time practicing on what that looks like and learning to ask, is that true? Where did that information come from? We all carry baggage. Who helped you pack that bag? It may not have been purposefully, yeah, and they still did it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you made me think of someone that I had interviewed for another show, and she shared something very similar to what you just shared. She had a lot of body image challenges. And she would just say things to herself around like, oh my gosh, I feel fat, or oh my gosh, I don't look good in this and this, that, and the third. And her daughter at one point called her out and said, hey, if you keep talking about yourself like that, you're going to give me a complex. And so that was the moment where she like recognized that, wow, I am really talking negatively about myself, and I need to shift that language, not just for me, so that I don't pass it on to my daughter or anyone else listening for that matter. And I love the fact that you do the work with your clients of getting down to the root of that belief, right? Like getting to who sowed those seeds that made you believe this. And in a society that we're in right now, where it's all about body image, it's all about BBLs, and it's all about, you got to look like this, you got to look like that. It almost like feeds whatever that original seed was. And so I can imagine that the women that you work with, it's a lot of deep and emotional work of getting back to themselves and what they value and who they are.
It's frightening and scary and freeing.
Mm.
And the way that we talk about it is we come into a space that I have created that I want it to be a brave space, a space where you can learn to be comfortable in your body, in your thoughts, in your own skin, without judgment. Here is that place to start to take those risks, because we've got you. I mean, we had, the women were like, everyone has a different story, and the storyline is still the same. Mm-hmm. We all take different paths, but we're all reading from the same book. And it's really been fascinating on how quickly the tension comes down when you know that you're not alone. And the reason why I've created it as group and one-on-one is because as soon as we shut down, as soon as we close that viewfinder, you're subject to diet culture again. It's everywhere. Your power comes from when you start to notice it. Oh, it's when you're at the checkout counter and you're looking at the magazines and, the images of people. It's everywhere.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The messages are everywhere. So I'm a little curious, shifting gears here, right? So being an entrepreneur and, being able to grow your business and support women the way that you do, I'd imagine that, maybe some women are finding you and are just like, oh my gosh, I need you. But I also know that building meaningful connections within our network is another great way to build our businesses. So I'm curious for you, what role has networking and building meaningful connections or collaborating with other people, what role has that played in helping you continue to be successful in the work that you do?
It's a great question. And it really takes time to learn that. Just because you've been introduced to somebody, you've exchanged in the old days a business card, that doesn't mean that you have established a relationship. It really, I've come to learn less is more. Find who you really connect with and nurture those relationships. And it's about, people work with people that they know, like, and trust. And yes, it is just a common line, and it's very true. The seeds that you plant today, think about being in a garden. They don't grow overnight. And sometimes those seeds that you plant this season aren't going to show up until next season. And then there's the plant that doesn't bloom, or it only blooms every other year, because sometimes those seeds can take a couple of years. Try to find what it is that you can gain from that experience and how can you nurture it, or what can you learn from it that you would do differently next time to further that relationship.
Absolutely. I love that analogy around the seeds, right? Like no one puts the apple seed and then like next day, okay, here I got a whole tree of
right. Here's the orchard. We're ready to go.
Yes, I love that. And so I'm curious, as you think about your career, and certainly you shared with us, the setback that you had with regards to your relationship ending and losing the kitchen. But as you think about your career overall, if you could, is there anything that you would go back and do differently? Or as you think about, your younger self, is there any advice that you would give to her in terms of, helping her to accelerate getting to the place that you are today, or yourself that you would do differently?
It's a great question. And I think it probably changes from time to time. I have spent so much time getting certifications and learning how to continue to be the best coach that I can be, that my biggest challenge is taking the time to learn, or to have learned how to do systems and put things in place that would have saved me time that I'm so resistant to, because I'm so interested in supporting the women that I work with that I don't really care the best time of day to post. And I know that it's really, really important. So find people and believe that it is worth your investment to help people get you to where you need to be. Because there's certain investments that, if I could go back, I would have done earlier to get me up and running, because it's kind of like penny wise and dollar foolish. And it's hard. It's because you don't see it. And, it's like in my house, it's like, okay, what other coach are you supporting? Well, we're all coaches for a different reason, because that's our expertise. That's like me saying, here's the intuitive book, go read it and you go figure it out. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So learning to invest in yourself in other than what you are focusing in, to know where you need the support. And I have been extraordinarily fortunate that my daughter is a graphic designer and has supported my stuff for the last year and a half. And everyone needs to have a person who's their right-hand person to help them get through this stuff, or find communities. If you're women who are listening here, find your network. And if you're a mom who's listening, there's an organization called pepperlane.co that has amazing support for women trying to be an entrepreneur. And their philosophy is to be in business for yourself and not by yourself. So there's places out there that you don't have to do it alone, and be willing to ask for help, be willing to go out of your comfort zone and meet women and barter, exchange, support, connect, collaborate, make time for those connections.
Yeah, I love that. And you've touched on so many things. It's the, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so rather than trying to figure it out or learning, rely on the expertise of others to help support you, and simply ask for that support as well. And to your point, coaching, I will always plug coaching. It's such a gift on so many different levels, around helping to pull out things that are within you, but also helping you to see your blind spots. And it sounds like, at some point you recognize that, like, not asking for help or feeling like you have to do it on your own is a blind spot. And so you've leveraged the expertise of others to help support you in that. So thank you for sharing that. So as you think about the emerging leaders that are coming into this awareness, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give them? Or how would you want to steer them so that they can continue to be the impactful, purpose-driven beings that they've been called to be?
First, everything is out of your comfort zone. And that becomes the new normal. When you feel those little butterflies or that tightness or that tension or whatever your body cues are, that something is uncomfortable, name what that is. Are you excited? Is it nervous? Are you out of your comfort zone? And don't let it stop you, because it's normal. I feel like I have lived the last 5 years out of my comfort zone. And really take the time to plan, to be strategic, put systems in place, be aware that, I can just get it done. Yeah, getting it done, yes. And I'm not talking about being perfect, because nothing is perfect. Otherwise, you're stalled. Just being more thoughtful in, if you're doing something, can you set it up to automate it? Take the time to learn to do your business. And don't work 7 days a week. You can't get it back. And I know I'm a victim of it because I love what I do and it's easy. And especially now with the pandemic, it's even easier to work late and work on weekends. Make sure that you give yourself space so that you don't burn yourself out. Yeah. That self-care is just as important as making a dollar. And I don't take that lightly. I understand financial hardship. Mm-hmm. You still need to invest in your self-care so that you have the capacity to go the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice and wisdom there. Really what you were touching on at the end, for me, what I heard was around, obviously the self-care, but really learning to set boundaries with yourself. Learning to set boundaries with others is a skill all in itself, but certainly learning to set boundaries with yourself is a true gift to you and everyone around you. So I'm glad that you highlighted that. Speaking of learning, I'm curious to know, is there a book that you're reading, or as you think about books that you've read that have been game changers for you, do you have a recommendation that you'd like to share with the audience?
The books that stand out for me there's 3 books that are my absolute go-to books in game changers in my life. And the first book is, I wish I could be sharing some wisdom of business. I'm more on the personal side. And the 3 books that have changed my life are Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon. The second book is Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And the third book is Wake Up Grateful, and I'm forgetting the name of the author. And it is just one of the most beautiful books that I give as gifts very often, because no matter where you are in your life, there is a chapter in there that you can relate to. And one of my favorite lines out of the book is, life is messy and magical, filled with disappointment and discovery. And it sums it up personally and professionally.
I'll get the links to those book recommendations, and certainly I include them in the show notes. So thank you for sharing those with us. And also along those lines, I'm curious, do you have any routines or like a success routine that you do either first thing in the morning or as part of your day that allows you to show up as your best self to support your clients and to continue to grow your business?
Absolutely. My big thing is about movement. And I use the word movement versus exercise because earlier in my days, it was militant exercise and it had to be this on this specific day. Now it is turned into, I need to do some sort of movement every day. And that is how I start my day. And some days it's running on a treadmill. Some days it's hiking in the woods with my dogs. Some days it's strength training. It is about movement. And that keeps me, it keeps my sanity. Like my routine is like I wake up and the first thing I do, like the night before, I put out, my socks, my sneakers, my shorts, my t-shirt, nothing fancy. If you saw what I worked out in, you would never know that I was a personal trainer, like rags. It doesn't matter. It is all about the movement and recognizing what kind of day it is. Sometimes the night before I'll think mentally, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then in the morning, I'm like, oh, I'm a little stiff. I'm going to do this instead. Movement is my priority. And, my routine is, I do something physically active and I start my day and, and I'm very disciplined. I don't get sidetracked often. I work for myself and I work from home. It's not time to vacuum at 9 o'clock in the morning because I don't have a call. It is, I work and I've learned to be able to, I can throw in a load of laundry, but I don't get sidetracked in an hour of doing laundry. And, and if you are going to get sidetracked, call it what it is. Take that time and be present with that time. Don't feel guilty over it. If you're not being productive, take that time and name it. And then go back so that you're not sitting there tortured at your desk, and if there's things happen, life happens, recognize it. And if you are going to be an entrepreneur and you are going to work from home, be structured. Yes, there's flexibility and you still need structure. I talk to so many women who are like, oh, I'm trying to build my business and, oh, but I'm going to go out and do this, this, and this. There's a time and a place. And I'm all for self-care and I'm all for self-compassion. And I also believe that you have to work hard.
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points there. And just recently, as of the time of this recording, I've been on the content that I've been putting out is around productivity because it's the beginning of the year. Everyone is set on goals and habits and all that other stuff. And I think the important piece is, recognizing that busy, right, doesn't necessarily relate to or equate to productivity, but also recognizing that sometimes cleaning the house is being productive, right? But you have to classify it as such, to your point, where you're not like, oh my gosh, I don't want to send out emails, so I'm just gonna
right. Exactly. Name it. And having a clean house is really important to me because I can't function. Like I know that I get distracted if I'm looking around and, there's crunchies on the floor. Like that doesn't work. I have a dog who is on our laps, on our couch, and I have sheets on the couch because I'm a little crazy about dog hair as much as I love my furry friend. And I know that I have to change those sheets twice a week because otherwise I can't concentrate because then I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm going, ooh, that's kind of gross. Like I'm not going to want to sit there later. So, claim that time. And there is the difference between busy and productive. Like you nailed it. That's your thing. Knowing when you're just being busy and when you're being productive, because those are two very clear distinctions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Lisa, this has been great. Before I let you go, though, I would love to have you share with the audience a project that you're working on and also how they can connect with you on social media or through your website.
Awesome. You can find me at Lisa Dahl Wellness, DAHL. So it's Lisa Dahl Wellness. And on my website, you can get a free download of a 5-day mindful eating experience, which has been really well received. So highly, highly recommend. You need 2 minutes each day to just read it, listen to the quick video, and it really can make a difference in your relationship to food. What am I working on right now? Right now, I am working on a 9-part series on 9 different types of hunger. So I'm super excited about sharing that. And again, that goes with mindful eating and understanding what triggers hunger when you look at something. I just finished doing a video on eye hunger. And, your belly says you're full, and then all of a sudden your eyes see that magical dessert, and it's a whole different relationship and verbiage going on. So that's coming out soon. And all my information is on my website. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, a little bit on LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. And LinkedIn is where we met. So
yes.
I will include all of your handles and certainly your website in the show notes below. Please do connect with Lisa and, let her know that you heard her on the She Leads Now podcast. So again, thank you so much, Lisa, for being on the show, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your passion, enlightening us to the truth that there is another way for us to live, for us to operate and appreciate where we are today. So with that, thank you so much for listening in to today's episode. Have a great and wonderful rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Leads Now. Be sure to join us next week for another transformative discussion to help you grow, develop, and embody the courageous leader you've always been. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get alerts when new episodes drop, and join us for our next Leaders Lounge meetup on Zoom. Details and dates for future sessions are included in the show notes below, so take a look there or head over to SabineGideon.com/lounge to register and hold your spot for the next session. Again, that's SabineGideon.com/lounge to grab your spot. Excited to connect with you all inside the lounge. Talk to you soon.